One after withdrawing his soul from the storage ring, Xiao Yan's face was filled with joy. Although he had suffered the most painful soul torture this time, it was a blessing in disguise. He had unexpectedly found 3 precious drops of Qi Source Soul. "Teacher, the soul barrier that you casually set up almost took your disciple's life," Xiao Yan muttered in a low voice. Under the vast and ocean-like soul power of the former, his true monarch stage soul was like a drop of water, so inconspicuous. When he was fighting Rek, Xiao Yan had realized the importance of soul power to him, even if it was an ordinary peak of monarch spirit warrior. However, for an emperor who was at a higher level than him. This was because when a monarch spirit warrior advanced to the emperor realm, the damage dealt to them by a true monarch stage soul would be significantly reduced. This was because when ordinary cultivators advanced to the sovereign realm from the monarch spirit, they would experience a process of transformation in their soul, and their soul power would be greatly enhanced. However, at this level, only alien realm or stronger illusionary souls could make them feel fear. When he was fighting Lei Hu, the damage his soul attack dealt to the former was almost negligible. This was the difference in the strength of his soul. "With this thing, my soul power should be able to advance a step further." Xiao Yan was overjoyed when he felt the powerful energy contained in the Qi Source Soul birthday. To him, this thing was no less than a suitable monarch skill. "When my soul energy recovers, I'll go to the Spirit Sky City's Alchemist Association to have a look. I haven't been concocting pills for so many days, and my hands are starting to itch." Xiao Yan, who was in a good mood, stretched his body. The pain in his body had been reduced by a lot. He walked out of the room. There were a dozen or so wooden houses in the courtyard. They were the residences of the Tuanji gang's members. Xiao Yan had seen many of them in the past few days. Most of them were emperors or fighting monarchs with relatively low strength. The reason for this was that many of them were unable to cultivate, resulting in their strength not being able to increase. Previously, Desolate Tien had heard Lu Wu's introduction. This black region was located in the north of Spirit Sky City. It was a place with relatively chaotic law and order. There were all kinds of fishes and dragons mixed in here. Many shameful things happened in Spirit Sky City, whether it was killing or robbing, or settling personal grudges. This was definitely the best place. Because of this, some of the major families in the city wanted to infiltrate this place and unify this place. They wanted to become the emperors of the underground regions of the Black region. However, the Spirit Sky City had ordered that the major powers in the city were not allowed to interfere in the matters of the Black region. Otherwise, they would be severely punished. The existence of the Black region was to resolve the internal conflicts of the Spirit Sky City. Although the darkness there was terrifying, it was necessary. If it was controlled by someone, it would be equivalent to handing over the dark side of the Spirit Sky City to the person who controlled everything. This situation was obviously not what the Spirit Sky City's city lord wanted to see. There were about 30 to 40 gangs in the Black Zone. They were of different sizes. There were hundreds of people in the big gangs and the small gangs. There were only a dozen of them. Although Du Ruoxi's Tuanji gang had 34 people, there were only 6 sovereign masters. "Looks like your injuries are almost healed. You can walk now." While she was sighing, Du Ruoxi suddenly walked into the courtyard. Behind her was Lu Wu, who was in ecstasy. "I used your 100,000 monarch crystals to buy some medicine pills that are beneficial to cultivation." Lu Wu is only a step away from becoming a 3-Dao sovereign master. If he takes the medicine pills, he should be able to advance in these 2 days. Du Ruoxi looked at the delighted Lu Wu and smiled. Then, she stretched out her hand and a jade bottle appeared in her hand. "This is a Tier 2 medicine pill that I specially bought from the Alchemist Guild that is very effective in healing injuries. It should be beneficial to you." Xiao Yan laughed. "What about my monarch crystal? That's in the group." As he spoke, he took the jade bottle from Du Ruoxi's hand and poured out one. It was crystal clear, round, and full in color. It emitted a faint pill fragrance. It can't be the tiger strength pill, right?" Looking at the scarlet-red medicine pill in his hand, Xiao Yan suddenly said. Seeing Du Ruoxi nod her head, Xiao Yan smiled bitterly in his heart. When he was in the illusion realm, in order to get rid of the damage caused by the prestige power spell, besides refining the Qi recovery pill, it was this tiger strength pill. Although it was a Tier 2 medicine pill, its effects were very ordinary. Xiao Yan immediately gave up after refining it. He did not expect that Du Ruoxi would spend monarch crystals to buy this again today. "Thank you, boss," he said with a smile and put away Du Ruoxi's good intentions. To him, the effect of the tiger strength pill could be said to be negligible, but Du Ruoxi's good intentions could not be refused. "Oh right, boss. Can you prepare a quieter room for me? I want to take the medicine pill and adjust the injuries in my body." After putting away the tiger strength pill, Xiao Yan's expression changed as he spoke. Du Ruoxi thought for a while and nodded. "That's true. This courtyard is full of people and it is not suitable to take the medicine pill. Follow me to my room." When Lu Wu heard this, he smiled vulgarly and said, "Boss, if Bai Lufeng knows about it, I'm afraid it will be bad," he said with a meaningful look on his face. Du Ruoxi's face turned black when she heard him. She could not help but throw a punch at Lu Wu. She was a little flustered and said, "Don't tell me about that guy." After saying that, she left angrily. Xiao Yan asked curiously from behind, "Who is Bai Lufeng?" Lu Wu immediately perked up when he heard that. His small eyes sparkled as he quickly looked around. He whispered into Xiao Yan's ear, "Bai Lufeng is the second master of Martial Strength Hall, the second largest gang in Black Region. He has loved our boss for a long time. I can see that our boss is interested in that guy as well. However, as a woman, she is a little shy and embarrassed to say that. The two of them are like enemies, pinching each other whenever they see each other." "Xiao Yan, hurry up. Don't listen to Lu Wu's nonsense." At this moment, Du Ruoxi, who was far away, suddenly shouted. When Lu Wu heard her, he helplessly curled his lips and left happily with the jade bottle in his hand. Xiao Yan did not dare to delay and hurriedly followed. "This is the place. It is quieter here. You should just stay here. Anyway, I have to go out and pick some herbs these few days." After arriving at a relatively quiet room, Du Ruoxi opened the door and said. When Xiao Yan entered the room, a unique scent of a female room rushed towards him. Compared to the smell in Lu Wu's room, the smell was much better. The room was simple and concise, and the items were arranged neatly, showing that the owner was experienced and capable. "Not bad." Looking around at the remote areas, Xiao Yan smiled and said. "Just not bad? In a place like Black Region that eats people without spitting out bones, having such a good room is already very impressive." Du Ruoxi said angrily and discontentedly. "Black Region? Could it be that every city in Star Moon Spirit Domain has a Black Region?" Xiao Yan sat on the chair and asked curiously. Du Ruoxi leaned against the door and thought for a while. "I think so. After all, the law enforcement in Star Moon Spirit Domain is very strong and complicated. Black Region can release the dark side of people and also facilitate the stability of the city." Xiao Yan held his head with both hands and mumbled to himself. Although the words are not bad, but this Black Region has a need to exist. After Du Ruoxi left, Xiao Yan was not in a hurry to take out the Qi Source Spirit Birthday. He sat cross-legged and thoroughly checked the condition of his body. Xiao Yan frowned slightly. His injuries were even more severe than he had imagined. His injuries, the injuries of the Xiao Ao, and the huge amount of energy required to recover the Monarch Flame, when all three of them were combined, he did not know if 3 drops of Qi Source Spirit Birthday were enough. Taking a deep breath, Xiao Yan flipped his palm and the jade bottle containing the Qi Source Spirit Birthday appeared in his hand. "How should I use this thing?" He looked at the jade bottle in his hand. Xiao Yan scratched his head and did not have the slightest clue. After thinking for a while, Xiao Yan took out a large basin of clear water from the storage ring and tried to pour a drop of Qi Source Soul into it. The importance of Qi Source Soul Birth, the words left behind by Elder Yi from the soul imprint on the jade bottle. Xiao Yan could deduce a thing or two about it. With Xiao Yan's knowledge and experience, he naturally wouldn't pour such a treasure into it all at once. Buzz. The moment the Qi Source Spirit Soul entered the water, the clear water in the wooden basin immediately began to boil. In the blink of an eye, it transformed into an extremely viscous green-colored liquid that emitted hot air. The hot air pounced onto Xiao Yan's body, immediately causing the pores on the latter's body to relax. Xiao Yan could not help but be overjoyed when he felt the waves of comfort that came from within his body. Immediately, he took off his clothes, wore a pair of shorts, and jumped into the basin. Xiao Yan sat cross-legged in the basin. His exposed body was covered in a green viscous liquid. The pores on his body were relaxed, causing him to feel a sense of comfort. After relaxing his body and mind, Xiao Yan's spiritual strength surged out from between his brows, attempting to touch the green liquid. Wah! The moment the soul power touched the green liquid began to spin quickly, forming a small tornado in the basin. Following Xiao Yan's soul power, the green liquid rushed out of the liquid and formed a strange shape in the air. The green liquid wrapped around Xiao Yan's soul, and the color of the liquid gradually faded. At the same time, Xiao Yan sensed that the weak soul energy was increasing. The colorless liquid instantly disappeared in the air, and the green liquid in the wooden basin kept coming, continuously strengthening Xiao Yan's soul. Ah! Xiao Yan closed his eyes. He felt the refreshing feeling from his soul entering his body like a warm current, causing his entire body to relax. He couldn't help but moan. His originally weak soul not only recovered quickly, but the injuries in his body also seemed to be recovering at a slight speed. As time passed, the vortex in the basin became bigger and bigger. Soon, the area where Xiao Yan was sitting cross-legged became the center of the vortex. The green liquid beside him was spinning crazily, and pillars of liquid were being injected into Xiao Yan's soul, which was getting stronger and stronger. In Xiao Yan's senses, Xiao Yan's body, which was condensed from his soul, gradually became more solid. The feeling of weakness from before was gone, and it was replaced by the feeling of being full of energy. Wah! The spinning speed of the green liquid vortex was getting faster and faster. It even produced a strong friction with the air, bringing along sonic booms. The powerful force stirred the surrounding origin monarch cheese into a visible storm. As the vortex spun, the storm also began to spin violently, instantly tearing all the arrangements in Du Ruoxi's room into pieces. Xiao Yan, who was immersed in the pleasure of strengthening his soul force, naturally did not notice that when his soul force increased to a certain point, Xiao Yan suddenly felt a kind of powerless feeling. He has reached the peak of true monarch stage soul? With this thought in mind, Xiao Yan was overjoyed. This chi source soul was really a good thing. With just a single drop, not only did it fully recover his injured soul power, it also allowed him to touch the threshold of breaking through to the alien realm soul. The green liquid continued to flow into Xiao Yan's soul. At this moment, his soul, which had been unable to break through for a long time, felt a slight pain because of the green liquid. This was equivalent to a container that had no opening. When it was filled with water, it would not increase the capacity and continued to pour water. The result could only be that the container was crushed by the huge water pressure. As for the soul, it would be like a vessel that could transform, but this transformation would be even harder than the collapse of the vessel. The pain that penetrated deep into the soul felt as if his entire body was going to explode. Xiao Yan instantly felt as if he had fallen from heaven to hell. He could feel that Xiao Yan's body, which was formed by the soul force, was currently covered in dense cracks, as if it was going to split at any time. Xiao Yan, who had experienced many soul pain, gritted his teeth and kept his mind clear. Even though his body was trembling due to the pain, Xiao Yan was still fully focused on controlling the changes in his soul. At this moment, a soul mark slowly appeared between Xiao Yan's brows. There was a crack visible to the naked eye on it. As the green liquid kept pouring into his soul, the crack became bigger and bigger. When the soul mark cracked open, Xiao Yan's soul was completely destroyed. The prestige power spell in front of his chest didn't move at all, as if it had fallen into a deep slumber. Seeing this, Xiao Yan no longer placed any hope on it. He focused all his attention on the soul mark on his forehead. Enduring the pain that was enough to make one dizzy, Xiao Yan closed his eyes tightly, gritted his teeth tightly, and controlled the transformation of his soul energy. After the fighting monarch of lower realms soul power went through the 3-step soul transfer, which was almost guaranteed to die, its soul power was undoubtedly stronger than the soul power of a native alchemist of the same level. At the same time, it could also easily jump ranks and concoct pills. This was the ability that all alchemists of the land coveted, but if there was a gain, there would definitely be a loss. The advancement of the fighting monarch of lower realms soul compared to the advancement of the soul of a native fighting monarch, the degree of difficulty could be described as heaven and earth. Woo! Xiao Yan panted heavily. The veins all over his body bulged as he changed the shape of his soul. The fingernail-sized soul mark on his forehead was changing at an undetectable speed, and the crack on it was getting bigger and bigger. The vortex created by the green liquid was getting smaller and smaller, and the large basin full of green liquid was now only a thin layer of it. However, the huge storm caused by the stirring of the origin monarch chi did not weaken in the slightest. Everything in the room had been destroyed, and numerous cracks that were like spiderwebs appeared on the wall. At a certain moment, Xiaoyan's soul power began to slowly increase. The crack on the soul mark between his eyebrows, which was about to split the mark into 2 halves, gradually stopped. The fingernail-sized soul mark also slowly changed shape. It was like a heavenly eye that appeared between Xiaoyan's eyebrows. The moment the heavenly eye was formed, a powerful soul power instantly burst out. The wooden basin underneath Xiaoyan exploded first, and the soul power swept across, instantly destroying the storm that was about to destroy the room. The soul power was instantly retracted to avoid the destruction of the room. The heavenly eye quickly disappeared between Xiaoyan's eyebrows. The pain on Xiaoyan's face was gradually alleviated. Soon, a trace of relief appeared on his forehead. In his perception, although Xiaoyan's body, which was formed from his soul, did not change in the slightest, his incorporeal body became more solid, and he looked much more agile. With his eyes closed, Xiaoyan could feel that his mind had become clearer than ever. His fragile true monarch stage soul had finally stepped into a completely new realm. Alien realm soul. He only felt it for a brief moment. Xiaoyan had strong confidence. Although he was still no match for Lei Hu, who was a peak of monarch king warrior, if he was given the chance to use his current soul power, it would at least make him suffer for a period of time. Currently, Xiaoyan was no weaker than an ordinary monarch spirit warrior just by using his soul power. In fact, he could even make an imperial warrior give him the title of imperial warrior when he was caught off guard. Teacher said that alien realm soul can refine 6th grade medicine pills at the highest level. I wonder now, as he was talking to himself, Xiaoyan opened his eyes. When he saw the room that looked like it had been attacked by a storm, he could not help but be stunned. His mind spun and he immediately moaned helplessly. This time, it was over. Duruoxi still did not tear him apart. Helplessly patting his head, Xiaoyan stood up and put on his clothes. Taking out a jade bottle, he looked at the remaining 2 drops of Qi Source Spirit Birthday and pondered for a moment. He decided to use another drop to increase his strength. This drop would completely heal the injuries in his body. It would also help his soul advance to the alien realm. If he used another drop, Xiaoyan was looking forward to seeing how strong he would become. His current strength was too weak. 2 monarch flames and 2 Xiaoaos had been seriously injured. In the Star Moon Spirit Domain, which was even more dangerous than the Forest Domain, it was impossible to have no trump cards. Just as Xiaoyan was pondering, a knock suddenly sounded on the door. Du Ruoxi's angry voice was heard. "Xiaoyan, what are you doing inside? I heard something breaking in the distance just now. Let me tell you, bad thing. I will punch you." Xiaoyan looked at the broken things on the ground and the dense cracks on the 4 walls and did not say anything for a long time. 1-inch Xiaoyan. Under Du Ruoxi's furious roar, Xiaoyan quickly rushed out of the room and said innocently, "This was not destroyed by me. I have been like this since I woke up from my cultivation. You can't blame me for this. Go to hell." He made my room look like this and apologized with a single sentence. "You didn't even say anything, and you still refuse to admit it." Du Ruoxi held a completely green spirit sword in her hand, and glared at Xiaoyan as she spoke angrily. "Then I'll apologize, okay?" Xiaoyan easily dodged Du Ruoxi's straight sword and said with a sincere tone. "No, you want to apologize and that's it?" Du Ruoxi heard Xiaoyan's apology and became even angrier. She attacked even more fiercely, but in Xiaoyan's eyes, Du Ruoxi's attack was only at the level of an emperor. When he remembered that he once said he was an emperor, Xiaoyan could not help but smile in his heart. "I can't not apologize. Apologize or not. What are you trying to do?" While Xiaoyan was dodging, he also shouted out loudly. The alien realm soul between his eyebrows rushed out slightly and stabbed towards Du Ruoxi like a sharp sword. As an alchemist, Du Ruoxi's soul power was naturally stronger than an ordinary person's. In an instant, she felt Xiaoyan's enormous soul power rushing towards her. Du Ruoxi was startled and did not dare to hesitate. The soul power between her eyebrows flowed out and turned into a long sword that attacked the former. Sensing Du Ruoxi's soul power, Xiaoyan nodded slightly. It was also a true monarch stage soul, but it was much weaker than his before advancement. If his soul power was at the peak of the true monarch stage, then Du Ruoxi's current soul power could barely be considered to be at the late true monarch stage. The two soul swords collided with each other without making any sound. However, Du Ruoxi could feel that her soul sword had been severely wounded. It broke into pieces inch by inch and then turned into fragments. On the other hand, Xiaoyan's soul sword didn't show any signs of slowing down. It was still rushing towards her. When it was only a few feet away from her, the soul sword suddenly dispersed. When Du Ruoxi came back to her senses, Xiaoyan was already standing in front of her with a smile. "Your soul. Why is it so strong?" Du Ruoxi swallowed a mouthful of saliva and her beautiful eyes were full of shock. She really could not imagine that an emperor actually had such powerful soul power. "How is it? This kind of soul force should be enough to become the recommendation of the Alchemist Association." Xiaoyan laughed and saw Du Ruoxi nod her head in shock. Xiaoyan laughed and said, "Boss, we will go to the Alchemist Association tomorrow." As he spoke, Xiaoyan had already left the place. Du Ruoxi looked at Xiaoyan's back as he left in a somewhat stunned manner. It was a long time before she recovered her senses and muttered to herself, "This guy. Who is he?" When she saw the room that was on the verge of collapse behind her, Du Ruoxi immediately became furious. She forcefully endured her anger and left hatefully. His soul power had advanced to the alien realm, and all the injuries in his body had been healed. Xiaoyan finally relaxed and returned to the courtyard. Lu Wu had also come out. Judging from his qi, he had already advanced to the third Dao Sovereign Master realm. "Ha, little Yan, let's go. Let's go out for a stroll." Lu Wu, who had advanced to the third Dao Sovereign Master realm, was in a good mood. When he saw Xiaoyan, his eyes lit up and he said loudly. Xiaoyan, who had just advanced to the alien realm soul, was also in a good mood. When he thought about how he hadn't even visited the Black region once, he happily agreed. Hee, how's it going? Boss's room is very well decorated, isn't it?" On the way, Lu Wu looked around and asked Xiaoyan in a low voice. His face was full of vulgarity. I don't know," Xiaoyan said sincerely. He entered Du Ruoxi's room and began to cultivate. When he was in a good mood and was ready to admire her, the room had already become a pile of garbage. He really did not know. "Kid, just pretend." Lu Wu obviously did not believe him and snorted lightly. He did not dwell too much on this topic. He raised his head and looked at the sky. He suddenly sighed and said that Bai Lufeng is not a bad person. However, he was the second hall master of Martial Strength Hall. Given the ambition of their hall master, he'll never be allowed to be with the boss. Xiaoyan secretly smiled when he heard Lu Wu's melancholic sigh. Martial Strength Hall? How strong are they? A few days ago, according to Lu Wu's introduction, Martial Strength Hall seemed to be a relatively strong gang in Black region. They had many subordinates, and they were one of the 3 big gangs in Black region. The Tuanji gang was located in the region of the Martial Strength Hall. The smaller gangs that were similar to the Tuanji gang had to pay some protection fees every month in order to achieve stability. Because of Du Ruoxi's power, and also because of the conflict between the second hall master of the Martial Strength Hall, the Tuanji gang had to pay some protection fees every month. They had never paid any protection fees. Very strong. The strongest person in Black region is a monarch spirit warrior. I heard that the master of Martial Strength Hall is Bai Lufeng's uncle. When he was young, Bai Lufeng's father was killed by his enemies, and his uncle took advantage of the situation to take over Martial Strength Hall. His current strength should be comparable to a peak of monarch spirit warrior. Among the 3 major gangs in Black region, apart from Martial Strength Hall, the one with the biggest ambition is the Linkong gang. I heard that the Linkong gang is related to the major families in Spirit Sky City, the Feng family, Lu Wu said in a low voice. Feng family? Xiaoyan rubbed his chin and nodded thoughtfully. Although Spirit Sky City was only a small city in Star Moon's spirit domain, the strength of the city lord was far greater than Forest domain. A monarch emperor level warrior in the Forest domain. At the same time, he would also become a princess. As the only major family in the Spirit Sky City, the patriarch of the Feng family must have reached the monarch emperor. Swoosh! Just as Lu Wu was talking nonsense to Xiaoyan, a sound of wind breaking suddenly came. Xiaoyan's heart trembled, and he immediately reacted. He pulled Lu Wu, who didn't notice anything, and easily dodged the attack. Bang! A bow and arrow carrying a sharp force shot out explosively and hit an abandoned stone wall not far behind the two of them. The stone wall immediately collapsed and gravel rolled down. Xiao Yan looked at the distance with a gloomy expression. He saw two young men wearing the same uniform walking out from a dark path with a sneer. One of the young men held a bow and arrow and was ready to shoot again. "This is from the Linkong. Why are you guys here? Don't you know this is the territory of the Martial Strength Hall?" Lu Wu recovered from his shock. He looked at the two young men not far away and cursed. "Cut the crap. I heard that you guys have obtained a lot of monarch crystals recently. You have bought a lot of medicine pills from the Alchemist Association. Obediently hand over the monarch crystals and I will leave you with a complete corpse." A cold light flashed in the eyes of the young man who had knocked the bow and arrow as he spoke in a cold voice. "Both of them are 6 Dao Sovereign Masters. You can't defeat them." Xiao Yan reached out his hand to stop the furious Lu Wu. He said coldly, "If you want the monarch crystal, you should ask Du Ruoxi for it. Why are you looking for us? These few days, this brat has been buying medicine pills for cultivation in the Alchemist Association. Du Ruoxi should have given you a large amount of monarch crystals." "Brat, who are you? It seems like there is no one like you in the Tuanji gang." The youth beside him looked at Lu Wu, then turned to Xiao Yan and said, "Little Yan Zi, their strength is too strong. You go first, I'll stop them." When Lu Wu heard this, he said with a firm tone. He had lived in Black Region for a few years, and he knew the law of this place very well. To forsake justice for profit, to kill and rob. This was the basic rule of the Black Region. However, in the Tuanji gang, he knew that brotherhood was more important than anything else. Even if it meant death. Seeing Xiao Yan shake his head, Lu Wu became anxious. Just as he was about to rush forward, he was blocked by Xiao Yan. He looked at the two men not far away. Xiao Yan said coldly, "Get lost. Arrogant kid." The two of them immediately became furious when they heard this. The sharp arrows in their hands shot out at the same time, and two clear sounds of wind breaking rang in Xiao Yan's ears. Although the two bows and arrows were not spirit weapons, they were still considered very good weapons. With just their strength, after injecting Origin Monarch Cheese into the bows and arrows, the power was enough to easily kill ordinary emperors. Bastard! When Lu Wu saw this, all the Origin Monarch Cheese on his body surged. Just as he was about to stand out and block the two arrows, Xiao Yan did not move. He extended his hand and gently gripped the two arrows that were rushing over from afar. Everyone could only feel a huge pressure being emitted out of thin air. In the next moment, the two arrows had already turned into dust. "What?" The two youths were shocked and couldn't help but blurt out. Before the two of them could react, they felt a chill on their necks. Trembling, they looked back and saw Xiao Yan standing behind them with a smile on his face. He put his hands on their necks and said coldly in a voice only the two of them could hear, "The law of chaos. I know more than you." As soon as he finished speaking, Xiao Yan exerted some strength in both of his hands. The sound of two broken bones was heard almost at the same time. After that, the two of them fell down powerlessly. In front of Xiao Yan, there was only Lu Wu, who had a look of disbelief on his face. 2 inches you. This. Lu Wu looked at Xiao Yan, then at the two men who were lying on the ground and said. Without looking at the two dead people, Xiao Yan walked to Lu Wu's side and said with a smile, "What's wrong? You have been in Black Region for so many years, but have you never seen a dead person?" Lu Wu's mouth was full of bitterness. He said with a bitter smile, "Big brother Xiao Yan. So you are so powerful. I was really sorry." Xiao Yan waved his hand and smiled. "That's nothing. I haven't recovered from my injuries and I am weaker than you. Naturally, I have to call you big brother." Lu Wu scratched his head with a silly smile. After that, for the first time, he stopped his playful laughter and said respectfully to Xiao Yan, "Big brother Xiao." When Xiao Yan heard this, he just chuckled and didn't say anything. This kind of thing was also one of the rules of Black Region. He didn't have the ability to change it, nor did he want to change it. Even the tentacles of the Linkong gang have reached here. I'm sure the Martial Strength Hall already knew about this. This time, the Tuanji gang will be targeted by the 3 major powers. Xiao Yan thought for a moment, then he turned to Lu Wu and said, "Apart from the Martial Strength Hall and the Linkong, what is the other one?" Lu Wu thought for a while and said uncertainly, "It's called the Profound Gang." Among the three major powers, the Black Sect is almost always neutral. They don't really get involved in the conflict between the Martial Strength Hall and the Linkong, but they are the most active in the Black region. Every time the Black region killed someone and stole their goods, it was most likely done by the Black Sect. Moreover, there were many mysterious experts in the Black Sect. There was once a transaction in the Martial Strength Hall that was robbed by the Black Sect. Their hallmaster went to the Black Sect in a fit of rage. In the end, he returned dejectedly. No one knew what had happened. Black Sect, Xiao Yan nodded secretly. If no one offended him, he would not offend them. They were just killing people and robbing their goods, not robbing them by force. In that case, it was much less harmful than the Linkong and the Martial Strength Hall. Let's go back to the sect. I think the Martial Strength Hall has also received the news. There will definitely be a big battle in these few days, Xiao Yan sneered. Then he walked towards where the Tuanji gang was located. When Lu Wu heard this, a look of understanding flashed across his eyes, and he immediately followed after Xiao Yan. After returning to the courtyard, he greeted everyone and told Lu Wu not to let anyone disturb him. Xiao Yan rushed into the room and without any hesitation, he took out a jade bottle containing the Qi Source Spirit Birthday, and planned to start cultivating immediately. Since the Linkong had already found out that the Tuanji gang had obtained a large amount of monarch crystals, it was impossible for the Martial Strength Hall, who was the local tyrant of this region, not to know about it. The Linkong's tentacles had already reached over. The Martial Strength Hall would definitely receive the news. Since their chief master was an ambitious man, he would never let go of a piece of fat meat like the Tuanji gang. At that time, a battle would be inevitable. The rule of Black Region was that the winner would become the king and the loser would become the bandit. This was destined to be an unavoidable battle. Compared to the Martial Strength Hall, the current Tuanji gang could be said to be extremely weak. If they were to fight, the result would be obvious. Therefore, only those who were strong enough wouldn't be afraid. They wanted to establish their prestige. Although with his current strength and the soul power of an alien realm, he could only fight with fear. It wouldn't be a problem for him to deal with an ordinary monarch spirit warrior, but the stronger he was, the more powerful he would be. Otherwise, even if a fighting monarch could defeat an emperor, the deterrent force would still be greater. Subconsciously, people still looked down on the fighting monarch, but an emperor defeated an emperor. Invisibly, it would create a powerful deterrent force. He took out a wooden basin and endured the pain in his heart. He dripped a drop of Qi Source Soul Life into the clear water and then used the same method to make a sticky green liquid. Xiao Yan looked at the green sticky liquid in front of him, and his face was full of pain. There were only 3 drops of this thing. 1 drop was enough to make 1 drop less. There were very few heavenly treasures that could strengthen one's soul. Wouldn't it be a waste to use them for advancement? Xiao Yan hesitated for a moment, then gritted his teeth and jumped in naked. At this point, it was useless to think too much. No matter what, it was for his own use. There was no need to be so hesitant. He formed a hand seal and started cultivating. Circulating the meridians of the flame mantra, the origin monarch crystal in his dantian emitted a faint fluorescent light. The 6 origin chains that were as thick as an infant's arm in his body let out a rustling sound, affecting the crazy circulation of the origin monarch chi in his body. Wah wah wah. The green liquid in the wooden basin could feel the origin monarch chi circulating in Xiao Yan's body. As if it was being summoned, the green liquid gathered into several water pillars and jumped out of the water, rushing towards Xiao Yan's naked upper body. The moment the water pillars touched Xiao Yan's body, the water in the green liquid immediately dissipated. Only the purest Qi Source spirit energy entered Xiao Yan's body, turning into pure origin monarch Qis. The 6 origin chains were like a giant ladder connecting the heaven and earth. They passed through Xiao Yan's body, crazily absorbing the origin monarch Qis that entered his body. The sound even affected the air around Xiao Yan's body. The pure origin monarch Qis poured into all of Xiao Yan's meridians. They circulated rapidly around the meridians of the flame mantra. Finally, they were injected into the origin monarch crystal in his dantian. After absorbing a large amount of origin monarch Qis, a sparkling and translucent origin chains began to slowly condense. Xiao Yan wholeheartedly devoted himself to the formation of the origin chains. After the time it took for an incense stick to burn, a faintly discernible sound of metal colliding was heard. A green origin chains that was exactly the same as the other 6 Xiaoyans condensed within Xiaoyan's body. It shook slightly and emitted a holy-grade fluorescent light. At the same time, Xiaoyan's aura that had reached its peak suddenly changed. An even more fierce aura burst out. Under the control of Xiaoyan's soul, this aura was immediately withdrawn. The feeling of floating after he had just advanced to the 7 sovereign masters also disappeared. At this moment, Xiaoyan seemed to have felt a wave of noise in the courtyard. He also vaguely heard Du Ruoxi's voice. After a moment, the voice disappeared. Xiaoyan, who was at a critical moment, did not care. He immediately focused all his attention on his dantian. The green mucus in the wooden basin had reduced by less than a quarter. Xiaoyan did not dare to relax at all. He circulated the root of the flame mantra and continuously absorbed and transformed the pure origin monarch qi. After another incense stick of time, another metallic sound was finally emitted from within Xiaoyan's body. Another origin chains had been successfully condensed. A powerful force surged out from it and flowed to a specific location, resonating with the other 7 origin chains. That's right, I still need to restore the monarch flame in Xiaoao. Xiaoyan hurriedly controlled his absorption of the origin monarch qi when he thought of this. The circulation of the flame mantra also swiftly weakened. He controlled the origin monarch qi that had entered his body to surge into a wisp of weak flame beside the origin monarch crystal. Wah wah wah, the influx of the green liquid was almost like a frenzy. Under Xiaoyan's control, only a trace of the origin monarch qi flowed into the flame. The majority of it still flowed into the origin monarch crystal. Observing this scene, Xiaoyan pondered for a moment, and no longer deliberately controlled it. He allowed all the origin monarch qis to enter the origin monarch crystal, allowing the qi source soul to give birth. It had a great effect on the absorption of souls and origin monarch qis, and at the same time, it could only be targeted at one aspect. The green mucus in the wooden basin became lesser and lesser, and the whirlpool formed by the absorption also began to shrink. Finally, it returned to normal. Boom! A sudden air explosion suddenly rang out in the room, and the aura of a victorious sovereign master slowly emanated from Xiaoyan's body. Within his body, the 10 origin chains had formed a strange structure. The aura remained shockingly consistent, and at the same time, an even brighter and more crystalline origin chain slowly formed. 10 smaller origin chains transformed into huge origin monarch qis that poured into the origin chains. In an instant, this origin chains had an additional spirituality. The wooden basin suddenly shattered. When the flying fragments were about to hit Xiaoyan, a layer of armor formed by origin monarch qis suddenly emerged from Xiaoyan's body, easily blocking the fragments. Sovereign qi condensed, monarch spirit. Xiaoyan clenched his fists tightly. He could feel the tremendous strength in his body. At this moment, he felt as if he was breaking through the heavens and earth. When the qi in his body calmed down, Xiaoyan let out a long breath and experienced the surging origin monarch qi in his body. If he used his full strength now, he should be able to fight with an ordinary emperor. His strength had finally risen by leaps and bounds. Xiaoyan took out his clothes and put them on. He pushed open the door, and sunlight shone through the dense tree branches, landing on the ground and forming sparse spots. The huge courtyard was unexpectedly quiet at this moment. After seeing that several houses were empty, a layer of uneasiness gradually surged up in Xiaoyan's heart. When he entered Lu Wu's room, a piece of paper with messy handwriting was randomly placed on the table. The uneasiness in his heart became stronger. Xiaoyan picked it up and sneered, "Sure enough, you can't hold it anymore?" Before he could finish his words, Xiaoyan had already rushed out of the courtyard and rushed towards the Black Region fighting arena. The Black Region fighting arena was a place where many gangs in the Black Zone settled their disputes. Although killing and robbing people were common here, it was a private fight between gangs. It would not affect anything. On the Black Region fighting arena, it was a battle between 2 gangs to annex each other. At this moment, in the center of the Black Region fighting arena, on a large fighting arena, 2 figures were fighting at a rapid speed. The fighting arena had been eroded by the wind and rain for many years, and it was full of bumps and hollows. Some bloodstains that were difficult to wash away by the rain and snow were left on the arena forever, describing the cruelty of the past. Ha! Following a furious roar, an eagle-nosed man in Wu Wei's magnificent uniform kicked out in the air. The robust man on the opposite side was unable to dodge in time, and his arm was ruthlessly kicked. A clear sound of bone fracturing could be heard. The robust man did not even have the chance to cry out in pain. The hawk-nosed man once again threw a punch, laughing loudly as he punched the man in the face. The robust man immediately bled from his nose and mouth. He felt dizzy in front of him. He fell down and lost consciousness. The hawk-nosed man sneered. He raised his leg and was about to step on the robust man's head. "Stop!" Btth2, who was standing in front of the 30 people below, saw this and roared furiously. She rushed forward without caring about anything else. The Origin Monarch chi crazily surged out of her body and a fair and white fist carrying unparalleled power smashed towards the hawk-nosed man. The expression of the eagle-nosed man slightly changed, and he had no choice but to quickly retreat, barely dodging Btth2's punch. After forcing the hawk-nosed man to retreat, Btth2 squatted beside the robust man and reached out her hand to check the latter's breath. After noticing that the latter still had breath, she let out a sigh of relief and waved her hand. The two underlings below the stage hurriedly came up and carefully carried the fainted robust man down. "Sect leader Du, you have already lost 3 rounds. What? Do you still want to continue the competition?" A somewhat mocking voice sounded from the other side of the stage. Hearing this, a flame of anger instantly emerged in Btth2's eyes. She stood up and looked at the hunchbacked old man in the middle of the crowd. She angrily said, "Btth2, your men are too vicious." The hunchbacked old man: "This is really funny. Little girl, what kind of place do you think this is?" The crowd behind him also burst into laughter. Some of the surrounding gang members who were watching also burst into laughter. Btth's delicate face turned red and she gritted her teeth. She was so angry that her body was trembling. "Stop laughing." All of a sudden, a young man in a white robe beside the hunchbacked old man let out a furious roar that was mixed with a vigorous Origin Monarch chi. Everyone looked at the source of the voice and saw the angry face of the young man behind Btth. They all muttered a few words and stopped laughing at Btth. Btth looked at the young man in white robe. The latter gave her a helpless and bitter smile. Btth looked at Btth angrily and said while gnashing her teeth, "All right, I will accept the challenge. Send someone." Btth sneered and looked at Btth, who had changed his expression. He looked at the hawk-nosed man on the stage and shouted, "Tai-san, wake Captain Du up." The hawk-nosed man named Tai-san agreed with a sneer. He looked at Btth and a gloomy smile appeared on his face. He slowly clenched his fists. Btth looked at Btth with an ugly expression. Tai-san's strength was considered one of the top 10 experts in martial strength hall. Not long ago, he had reached the strength of 4 monarch spirit, even though Btth was an alchemist. Her soul power was beyond ordinary, but her actual strength was only at the monarch spirit. Besides, he knew Tai-san's style very well. He had killed a lot of people under his uncle's hands. Btth had fought with him this time. He'll most likely suffer a crushing defeat. Wait a minute. Btth gritted his teeth and roared towards the arena. Then, he respectfully said to Btth, "Uncle, why don't you let your nephew fight? That way, we can quickly get rid of her, so as to avoid any further complications." HMPH. Btth coldly snorted and gestured for Tai-san to stop. He turned to Btth and said coldly, "Don't think that I don't know what you are planning. It's just that I feel sorry for that woman. Let me tell you, you have never accepted protection fees from the Tuanji gang before. I don't care about that little protection fee. I'll just turn a blind eye to it and agree to it. This time, I definitely can't do it. Don't tell me you don't know about it? The Tuanji gang suddenly had money these few days. I estimate that it wouldn't be less than 70,000. I am determined to get these monarch crystals. If you stop me with that ridiculous excuse of having a relationship with a girl, don't blame me for not recognizing you as my nephew." After saying that with a gloomy expression, Btth turned to the stage and said, "Tai-san, attack until that woman is convinced. It doesn't matter even if you beat her to death." "What?" Btth's expression changed drastically when he heard this. The fury in his eyes burned crazily. He shouted at Tai-san, who was on the stage at the top of his voice, "Tai-san, if you dare to hurt a hair of her, I will never forgive you." Tai-san heard this and looked at Btth, who was standing in front of Btth with a cold expression. He laughed and said coldly, "Second clan master, don't show off your power in front of the great hall master." After saying that, his body flashed and he rushed towards Du Ruoxi. Hearing Bai Lufeng's words, Du Ruoxi, who had mixed feelings in her heart, saw Tai San rushing over without any hesitation. Gritting her silver teeth, she moved her delicate body and rushed towards Tai San without hesitation. Hee, the second hall master of Martial Strength Hall really has an idea about that woman. Humph, as the second master of Martial Strength Hall. For the sake of a woman, he cheated for personal gain, and he didn't care about the benefits of the gang. If my gang had such a person, I would have cut him into thousands of pieces and thrown him out to feed the dogs. That's right, he's a scum of the gang. ... When the crowd heard Bai Lufeng's words, there was a commotion. Most of them scoffed at him and looked down on him with disdain. When he heard the unconcealed ridicule from the crowd, Bai Lufeng's heart was burning with anger. Because of his excitement, his body trembled slightly. Arg! Even though his soul power was far beyond ordinary people, his strength was more than a level lower than Tai San's. Du Ruoxi was careless. After a few rounds of intense battle, Tai San seized the opportunity and punched out fiercely. He did not hesitate to hit Du Ruoxi's back. The huge force made Du Ruoxi involuntarily cry out in pain. A trace of blood flowed out from the corner of her mouth. Ruoxi. Seeing the shocking trace of blood at the corner of Du Ruoxi's mouth, Bai Lufeng's eyes turned red. He shouted loudly and was about to go onto the stage when Bai Julang grabbed his right arm and said coldly, "Your current appearance is simply a disgrace to the Martial Strength Hall. If you dare take a step forward, don't blame me for being ruthless." After saying that, he let go of Bai Lufeng's hand. Woo! Looking at Tai San, who was throwing another punch at Du Ruoxi, Bai Lufeng almost let out a heart-wrenching roar. Without any hesitation, he rushed towards the platform. Bastard! A trace of fury flashed across Bai Julang's eyes. His body moved and he appeared behind Bai Lufeng. His hand blade ruthlessly struck the latter's neck. Bai Lufeng was caught off guard and immediately fell to the ground. He kicked Bai Lufeng to the ground. In the arms of a few of his subordinates, Bai Julang slightly cupped his hands towards the surrounding crowd and said, "This lowly nephew did not manage to teach properly. I have let everyone laugh at him." After saying that, Bai Julang looked at it. He glanced at the people from the Tuanji gang opposite him and sneered, then said to Tai San, who was on the stage, "Kill that woman and see if they will hand over the monarch crystal or not." "Yes!" Tai San smiled cruelly and looked at Du Ruoxi, who was struggling to get up on the ground. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and sneered as he walked forward and said, "What a beauty. No wonder the second hall master fell in love with you. It's a pity that he doesn't know the current situation." As he spoke, he raised his fist and ruthlessly smashed it towards Du Ruoxi under the frightened expressions of the Tuanji gang's people. "Get lost!" All of a sudden, an angry shout resounded throughout the entire area. In the next moment, everyone saw Tai San, who had been showing off his power earlier, fly backwards and spit out blood along the way. "Who is it?" Bai Julang shouted angrily when he saw this. Everyone turned their eyes to where Tai San was standing. At this moment, a young man in a black robe had appeared there. The young man extended his right fist, and it was obvious that he had sent Tai San flying with a single strike. Xiao Yan, Du Ruoxi, who had closed her eyes and was waiting for death, opened her eyes. When she saw Xiao Yan standing in front of her, she couldn't help but be shocked. The young man raised his head and looked at Bai Julang fearlessly. There was no joy or anger in his calm expression, only a cold voice could be heard. "Old thing, if you want the monarch crystal, come up here yourself. Don't send any more trash." Quote,